Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? I'm so glad you're back. Today, we're going to talk about downsizing. I know there's a lot of videos out there that talk about downsizing, and I never even thought about it because me too. I downsized, but I did it almost 7 years ago. So I was probably 63 at the time, and I didn't even think about the fact that I did move to a downsized home. My biggest thing was stairs. I was tired of climbing stairs. I just, every house I went into and there were stairs, there were steps, front porch steps, it just steps everywhere. Now, I don't have a problem going up steps for the most part, but I could as time went on. So I decided that I wanted just a ranch style home, but a very small home. I didn't need anything big. I was by myself. I just wanted to make sure that I did have an extra bedroom. So I do have two bedrooms, and they're nice sized. And a nice kitchen. I wanted to not have to do anything when I moved in. So I was very particular about what I was looking for. I wanted a garage. I wanted everything to be as updated, if not completely updated, that was possible. And I wanted a backyard. I wanted a fenced in yard. And because I live in California, I wanted no grass. I just wanted a rock landscape. Personally, I love the rock landscapes. But I do have a garden in my backyard. I did have an area that was already formed to have plants, and it had two bird of paradises on each end of it already here. So they were already established when I got here. They're beautiful, and I still have them, but I have added to my garden, and I am going to get out there, and I'll probably take the camera out with me, and because I do have to, what do they call it, prune some of my plants or cut them back. I'm not quite sure what it's called. I do the best I can, and I love it. I mean, I love going out there and doing what I do in my garden. So that's all I needed. It was just this quiet place. It had to be in a 55 and older neighborhood, or dwelling. And because, I love family, I love kids, but I've grown past having them all as my neighbors. I know that sounds terrible, but I think we all get to that point at one time or another. So I don't think I'm alone on that. Do you? So I got this house just before the prices all went sky high. So that was a big relief. And so, of course, now it's worth, more than double what I paid for it now. But I don't plan on going anywhere. I was kind of looking at this as being my forever home. But here's what happened, and it's gonna, I'm still planning on it being my forever home. But this is a situation that happened shortly after I moved in here. What I thought, really, we do have an HOA here. However, we have no community property, or is that what it's called? Common property, no common area. We don't have gates that you have to go through to get in and out of our area. There's no uh, pool, there's no rec room, there's nothing like that. We have no common area whatsoever. So our HOA fees are ridiculously low. I mean, happily low for all of us seniors here, but we only pay $36 a year. And it used to pay for a small office that they hired a woman to be in there to, send out all the newsletters and take care of any forms that we might need. For example, if we want to paint our house, we do only have a choice of about 18 colors, I was told, that you could use. If you want to paint your fence, you have to get that approved. Of course, if you don't take care of your yard or anything like that, you will get fined. So there are additional monies that will come in if needed. And they did have a security person that drove around and would just question some people that came in, if there were kids, because of course there's not supposed to be any kids or anyone under 55 living in these homes, but it happens. And it happens here too. We have some people who have an elderly person that buys the house, but then say a 30-year-old is coming in to be a caretaker for them. So we do have that, and it's not too bad. Though there are those neighbors that will complain about it. As long as they're quiet and they leave me alone, I'm fine. So now, 3 years after I moved into this house, all of a sudden I get a letter from a property management company, saying that the HOA has gone up to $80. Now, I wasn't really going to complain about that because, costs have gone up to pay this person to do all of our paperwork. That it's a lot. Um, and to pay for a security person to drive around. So, I thought, okay, the cost went up. And it was still only for a year, not monthly. We don't have anything monthly here. But I didn't know we had all of a sudden a property management firm. So I was like, what the heck? What happened to the office? What happened to the lady? I didn't really pay any attention to any of that stuff. I voted every year on who I thought would be a good candidate to be our board of directors. Well, we found out that they kind of hijacked the board of directors at the time. It was down to one member, and they just kept adding their own people in it. We didn't vote on anybody anymore, and wow, things went crazy. Crazy. All of a sudden, they're taking members of the old board to court, the old board's taking them to court. All of the money that we paid for dues is going for lawyers, for $450 an hour lawyers. And then the emails started coming back and forth about, all this stuff that was going on and who the tyrants were and who they weren't. And so for 3 years, we've been dealing with it. We wanted the people who brought in this property management to get out of office. We never wanted a property management. We do have about 1,200 residents here, but we don't need a property management to do that. If they wanted to hire someone just to handle the paperwork or something, that's different, but not one that was going around. Well, they were going around and fining all these seniors for all kinds of different things. Their fence wasn't proper. They had weeds in their yard, which, I don't want to see the weeds either, but they just went around, took pictures of everybody. So everything was a threat. Every move you made was being watched, and they were sending out fines to all these people. It was crazy. Well, after a couple years of this and of them going to court, we decided we wanted this other group of people to be our board of directors, and we all, I guess you could call us a little rebellious. No one was going to pay anything to them at all, not at all, nothing. Pay no fines, pay no rent or HOA fee, nothing. Because all they were doing was using our money to pay for lawyers to attack this new group that wanted to come in and have a legitimate election. It's all they asked for. So the judge kind of gave a final warning and said, I need to see a final election and see who it is that your homeowners want in there. And we're going to get this ended. This has just gone on too long. So we just did this. Today, I went to this property management group, which has kindly decided that they don't want to go through any of this with the homeowners anymore, and they are done, and they are relinquishing all of our paperwork, and they are going to close up as soon as the new board takes over, as soon as this election was over. So they held it at their location, and it was an interesting process. I went to it. I started to finally get involved a little bit more because a lot of the homeowners here are what we found out to be investors. So they didn't turn in any ballots. And there are other owners here that own, 13, 14 homes each. Um, Now, luckily, they did participate in the votes, but we didn't have enough mail-in elections to be able to solve it right then and there about 2 weeks ago. But we are allowed to have a certain quorum, and if that gets filled, then we can use those ballots and call it done. So today was that final opening of all the ballots. And like I said, we have 1,200 houses here, and we've got 399 ballots, but it was enough for a vote to be taken. So we sat there while this election committee that they hired separate from, a neutral party, they hired them separately to do these counts. And we watched them open all the envelopes in front of us and put all the ballots through their little scanner machine. And the board of directors that we as homeowners wanted to won unanimously. So that was really nice. And then we left there. Everybody did their own thing, and that was at 11. We were done by 12. And then at 2, we met for the first time at the local library in their conference room to have our first open meeting. And that's the first time that I've actually been a part of any of the meetings, because for 3 years we haven't had any. And it was interesting, to say the least. There were a few people that were there in support of the ones that we just took out of office. And there were probably, oh my gosh, there was a lot of people. There's probably at least 60, 70 people there that were for this new board. And it's funny how the ones that really want to cause issues or major complaints are the loudest people ever. They can't talk in a soft voice. They can't talk, and the room wasn't that large. We could hear you, but some of them were very loud, and I was in shock. And you know me by now, if you've been watching my videos, I don't like drama. I don't like that kind of stuff, which is why I kind of stayed away from all of it in the beginning. And I just sat there and shook my head in disbelief at how rude and disrespectful these people just became in charge of the board of directors like 2 hours ago, and there's already hitting them up. Well, you said you were going to change this. You said you were going to change that, and boy, it sounded like the political world out in the real world too. And I was just like, unbelievable. I mean, you can say we're going to do this, but you got to let them get their feet in there and get all the paperwork from this property management and get their stuff together. So it has been, I'll just say it, hell. It's been hell, going through this, because you're always worried about the fact that you haven't paid this, and is this going to come back to haunt you if because you wanted to stick with all of us not doing it. And then they wanted, from me, they wanted an age verification and who else lives in my house and all this other stuff. Well, we all decided not to do that either. We're not cooperating at all. They turned around and fined me $500, 500 for not turning in that age verification form. I was like, really? $500? So they're desperate for money. So they were trying anything. Nobody paid it. I heard of a lot of people that got this same form because we weren't, or the same fine because we weren't going to turn in this form. So it was interesting. So you never know what you're going to go through with HOAs. Luckily, we don't have to go through what millions of people out there are going through with these exorbitant HOA fees that they got to pay, and um, the fines that they get. Now, I know there's a new ruling out there about the $100 is the highest you can fine someone. So uh, when that came through, I thought, okay, I don't know if we were safe or not because it came after the fact. But the new board is going to totally wipe out all these fines that they gave to them. They're going to be checking into if it was something to do with somebody's property. They are going to check into it and send one of our agricultural team over there to look at the property and see where, if we could help, or not, they can help, or if the person's plans on correcting whatever the problem is before they turn around and find them new in whatever problems on their yard. But I think it's going to be interesting. And it seems like a good group of people who have taken over as board of directors. And we're just excited completely, all of us at that meeting, just to have this over with. I mean, just to have it over with. And it was funny because I had one of the women that was opposing everything, when we would say, do I have a second, and all the A's and all the no's, and she opposed everything. And we were talking about, and I had asked about the security coming around again, or is that something they're going to look into? I did not expect them to have an answer right now. And so I was fine when they said, yes, it's still on the table. We just have to see if we can find somebody that fits what we need. And this woman comes up to me, the one that opposes everything. She comes up to me at the end of the meeting, and it just, like I said, sounded so familiar. And she says, "Well, we were working on that." So apparently she was part of the old board of directors, but I didn't know. I didn't know her. And she said, "We were working on trying to do that, but it's very, very expensive." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, thank you for the information." And she goes, "And if it wasn't for him," and she's pointing to our new president of the board of directors, and she goes, "If it wasn't for him," and I said, "Well, I'm going to have to stop you right there." I said, I will be more than happy to listen to you if you are wanted to tell me what you've been doing or what you have accomplished or what didn't work when you guys were the board. But I will not listen if all you want to do is talk about our new board member. I said, because he's not standing here with us. So, and I don't know him any more than I know who you are. So I'd like to make my own judgment on what I think. And I said, but I'm not going to listen to you just talk about somebody else and what they did or didn't do. I said, I'm not going to do that. I said, because you only can speak for yourself. You can't speak for what was going on in his mind. And I just don't want to hear it. And she said, well, yeah, okay. No, I get it. But when we tried to do this, he did this, and he's the one that changed this, and he's the one. And I said, again, I said, if you can continue this conversation without saying he, and tell me what you did, because for the last 3 years that this has been going on, there has been no changes in this community at all. Not any. You guys haven't done anything. You haven't. All you did was badmouth the ones that we wanted to come in and take your place. That's all you guys did. I said, so again, if you want to tell me about something good that you were going to do, because you didn't do anything good. And I said, I will listen. I will totally listen to every word you have to say, but I'm not going to listen to you talk about somebody else. That in my book is called gossiping. So she just kind of, oh, well, no, I get it. I understand. And she's walked away. But I decided I'm not going to tolerate that. Uh, I don't know these new board members at all. I don't know any of them. So I want to make my own judgment. They made a lot of promises, and they have only 1 year to be there before we have another election and we can vote them back in. So I want to see what they're going to do. Let's give them a chance to see if, say, they paint new house numbers on our curbs. I guess that was something they used to do with the money, was also paint these numbers. And they also fixed people who had stationary or the mailboxes that are on poles. If they were dented or beat up, they would replace them. Mine's encased in cement and brick, so that wouldn't apply to me. But you just want to see. But I just thought, oh my gosh, this is so bizarre, because it's the same thing, like I said, that's going on out in the real world out there. And I just put my head in the ground for a few years there until I realized that, wow, there is a problem here. So now that's all settled. And that's all I'm going to talk about in this video, just because it's such a new, and it was exciting to win. And I will talk to you more on the next one about my little house and how fun it is. I love it. I in no way want to go back into a bigger house. I just don't. I love the size of as my daughter says, house for one, mom. I think it's bigger than for a house of one, but but she makes fun of that, but she loves it. And it's was exactly what I asked for when I was looking for a house, and I walked in and it was ready for me to just move right in without having to do anything. And I'll explain all that in another video. So if you like this video, please subscribe or like. It's very helpful to me. And I enjoy doing this so much. So it's nice to get that kind of support. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.